So just to let you know, I have turned the recording on. So I'll be able to record the chat box also. So if I miss any of your questions, because I don't have anybody to help me monitor the chat box tonight, I can get back to you with them later after I review it. And we'll also be posting this on the website. So if somebody from your organization wants to see it or you want to share it with somebody, we'll send out the link and have it posted on the website, so you can do that also. So I am going to get started, so we're not here all night. Bear with me, because as we go through this and people are logging in, I also have to admit them into the room. Anyway, as I said, we're recording this, so be careful with that chat box. First off, as you can see, I'm showing you the new and improved website. Those of you who haven't logged into it yet, you're going to need to reset your password. So once you log in, the temporary password is 123456778. And once you log in, you'll see I'm already logged in, but if you were not logged in and you haven't renewed your membership, you'll see an orange bar across the top of it reminding you to renew your membership. And if you have a PERF certificate, to renew your PERF certificate also. Anyway, there's also, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, of which people seem to not find their way to the bottom of the site, is a video, instructional video to show you how to log in and how to renew. So if you're not sure how to do it, our David Seabrook video, he's our new Oscar winner. So you can just watch the video and I'll walk you through the whole thing. The other thing is, down on the very bottom, there's a sign up for our email list. If you are not a member, or if your crews are not member and they want to get added to our email list, all they need to do is just log in here and they will get all of the e-blasts and emails that we send out. So starting at the home page, clicking on our little YRA logo will take you home no matter what page you're on. It'll take you back to the home page. But one nice thing, I want to just go over a couple of little things, but one nice thing is our interactive calendar. And if you notice, everything is very large on this computer screen. It is a responsive screen, so as you use a tablet or a cell phone, everything shrinks down, but all the features are all still there. But we have an interactive calendar now. So as you can see, our next event is a safety equipment seminar on Thursday. And if you click on it, it'll take you right to how to register for it. And the same thing will happen with club events. If a club places an ad and for their regatta, Paul, I ask you to mute yourself, please? There, okay. You'll be able to register right through the website. So it's a nice feature that we've added for our clubs, member clubs. Again, clicking on the YRA logo will take you right back to the home page. The PERF regulations and the safety equipment and everything is all listed on here. Base ratings, current certificates. One Design Racing will have all of its calendar and contacts here. This will take you right to the calendar. The championship regatta scores and trophies will all go here, and our interactive crew board. The racing program will be listed under the mission statement when we have it published, but instead of the racing program, the printed book will no longer be the ultimate. If we need to update anything, the website will now be the official ruling on anything. So anyway, that is the new website. If your club has not updated their information, obviously, when we sent out the invite to this, we were working with an Excel spreadsheet that had over 250 email addresses on it, because it was an Excel spreadsheet that's been handed down through past administrations, and instead of taking names off and updating it, they just kept adding names to it. So some clubs would have 15 contact names on it, and other clubs, all we had was front desk at. We need to update our contact list so we know how to get a hold of all you guys to be able to invite you to things like this. So I encourage you to get your organization, your club, to go in and register online. They'll have to do the same thing. If they don't know the user password, they can contact the office. We can help you out with your username and reset your password and get it all set up. Most of the clubs have already paid their dues by check, and you'll still be able to pay your dues by check. But one thing by having everybody go online and do this is they can update their contact information, and it's a requirement. And next year, we'll ask all the clubs to renew through the site. They can still pay by check, but at least we'll get updated contact information every year so we can send out email lists instead of having the 250 contacts for clubs on this one, and at least 100 of them bounced back. So it would make our lives a lot easier, and yours too, if you could get your clubs to do that. We also have some other upcoming seminars besides the safety best practices one on Thursday. Following that one, we've got a Save the Sound seminar. Then we're going to be hosting a Weather Demystified with Chelsea, and she's going to go through explaining how to read weather data and stuff. And then we hope to have a PERF seminar where the PERF committee will present how to apply for a PERF certificate and the intricacies on getting all of that done and why PERF works for you. Other than that, that's the new website, and I'm done promoting that now. I'm going to stop sharing that. We had, sending out the questionnaire, we had a lot of feedback, and I thank you for that. We actually had a huge response to this, and larger than I thought it was going to be, of which I really appreciate. But some of the questions we're going to go through rather quickly. Some of them we'll spend more time on. The first one was hiring. We had a club asking about hiring practices for junior sailing, adult instruction and stuff. The best source for that is actually the JSA. And I don't have I will send out the link for that, but the JSA does have on their website, it's under the Sailing Instructor Recruiting Tips, on a whole process of how you get the visas and how you apply for getting instructors from overseas. How the COVID regulations are going to be handling that this year, I have no idea. They were very specific on Ireland. I know Ireland is on heavy-duty lockdown right now, and they have just put a pause on the AstraZeneca vaccine, so I'm not sure how that's going to affect traveling. Another question we got was what type of boats most clubs use for adult training. In most cases, most clubs around here use the Ideal 18s, which there are some clubs that use sonars, but the Ideal 18 seems to be the most popular one, and it comes in really handy because if more clubs with the same fleet, we have an awful lot of inter-club racing going on between them and borrowing boats, and it's worked out very well for the majority of the clubs. U.S. sailing. If your club has not done so, I strongly recommend your club signs up for the quarter deck. They updated this newsletter, which used to be a monthly newsletter. They now send it out for organizations on a weekly basis. And it gives all kinds of information on what they're doing with race management, with their One Design membership fleets, COVID protocols, and what's going on with that. So I strongly recommend you do that. As far as race management training, I got a lot of questions about that one too. The certification for race officers right now is all being done virtually. We will not be doing any in-person seminars until at least July. It was the end of May. They keep pushing it back depending upon what's going on right now. They're talking through July. And we're trying to catch up on all the people who had signed up for seminars last year, and those got canceled. So we're in the process of trying to get those guys enrolled in the new virtual seminars. The one-day basic race management seminar used to be on a Saturday, 8 to 5, and you were done. It now goes over a 3-night period, either on a Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, or a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and depending upon what time zone you're in. It's a bit more complicated in doing it. It requires a minimum of 2 instructors, because while one is presenting, the other one's monitoring the chat box, so we go back and forth with that. There is no advanced race management seminar right now, because if you can imagine that a one-day one takes 3 nights, the advanced one would take 2 weeks to get through, and they are right now working on trying to get just the regionals and nationals who need to get recertified in through another system which the judges use for roundtable discussions. But once they get going, I'll let you guys all know that we can start doing them in person, but on the calendar right now, you can sign up for virtual ones. Anyone who was already certified, who was going to expire last year, you've had the option of getting an extension, so you wouldn't get expired. Hope you all did that. The rule book, new rule book is out. They are not automatically emailing it to everybody. If you want one, you can go online and purchase one, but the rule book is now in an app, and it's a new and improved app than they had before. It has an index in it. It's got interactive Dave Perry explaining the rules to you. It also has a protest form built right into it, and that's one of the good things. And when we get to how to run regattas with COVID protocols, is instead of having somebody come ashore and fill out a protest form, you can now fill it out online and email it to the protest committee, and depending upon how they're virtually handling their protest hearings and stuff, you can do it that way. They also have resources right on there in their tools that you can go through and look to different things, seminars and stuff like that on there. Going into the rules, there are a lot of changes in the rule book this year. They made up for the last round, which had very few changes. This year, there's a lot. A lot of it has to do with they've changed numbers for rules. So if you're copying and pasting a sailing instructions or a notice of race from last year and just changing dates, which I don't recommend doing, but a lot of people do that, make sure you go and refer and make sure you have all the rule changes in there. One big one is on the bottom of all of our sailing instructions. We always put the disclaimer with the decision to race, which used to be racing rule number 4. It is now number 3. So make sure you change that. So going through some of the changes that pertain to race management, race signals. So all those little pretty pictures in the back of the rule book, those are not just there for your guide. Those are actually rules, including how many sound signals you have that go with them. So make sure that if it says that there's supposed to be 2 horns with it and you only do 1, you can actually get protested for that. So, and somebody can request redress. So, but a new ones have been added. One of them is the V flag. And the V flag is if the race committee needs safety procedures, they put the V flag up, and everyone, sailors, support boats, coaches, whatever, are to monitor their radio channels for instructions on search and rescue. The orange flag is now the official starting flag. So if you normally use a yellow flag or whatever color you normally use, you're going to have to write a change to your sailing instructions saying that it's a different color. The default color is now officially orange. The blue flag, which used to be a courtesy, not a requirement, that said that this is here, me, I'm the finish boat, and basically it was only there that if you had a bunch of boats sitting around your finish line, somebody could say, oh, that one's got the blue flag on it, so that's the official finish boat. Now the blue flag is the official finish flag. So if you're like a lot of clubs and you have the orange flag as your start flag and the yellow flag as your finish flag, you now need to either make that blue or right into your sailing instructions that you have changed you're changing that. In the definitions, the definition of start and finish has changed. The definition of start used to be any part of a boat, equipment, crew that was on the course side at the signal is OCS. So if your bowman is busy pointing and waving and he's pointing, and his elbow is over the line, that was over. It's no longer over. The definition now is any part of the hull is over the line at the start. And sprits are not part of the hull. So now your bowman and your sprit can be sticking out over the line and you're not OCS. For finishes, it was any part of a boat or equipment in its normal racing position. So if a spinnaker was flying in its normal racing position and the edge of the spinnaker was just over the line, that was what you call the finish on. It's the hull. So it's going to be a little bit harder for all of us to be able to call the line with a lot of downwind finishes, but it is now the hull. And again, a sprit is not part of the hull. What else? Oh, sailing the course. Rule 28, which used to be that string rule, the definition has now moved to definitions of what the sailing the course is. And now it's sailing the race. And it includes if a boat misses a mark, such as an offset, and your mark boat radio used to radio back and say, hey, sail number 234 missed the offset mark, and you'd say, okay, we're going to have to protest them, or you'd wait for a competitor to protest them because you hate doing that stuff. Now you don't need to protest them. It is now an automatic NSC. Race committees cannot give a disqualification, but their scoring is now NSC, which means did not sail the course. You don't have to protest them. But you better be very careful or they're going to come back and ask for redress if you got the wrong boat. Speaking of definitions, while we're at that, definitions, I see a lot of sailing instructions that when they say the regatta will be governed by the rules as defined in the racing rules of sailing, and then they say, and the notice of race and the sailing instructions and the class rules and all of that stuff. There's no need to put all that kind of stuff in there. The definition of rule automatically includes the class rules, the notice of race, and the sailing instructions. So you don't need to repeat all of that. The other thing I see a lot is people write into the sailing instructions that if there is a conflict between the notice of race and the sailing instructions shall apply. Wrong. Rule 63.7 says that if there is a conflict between the sailing instructions and the notice of race, or between the rules, the protest committee will decide. And the World Sailing Case 98, I believe, states that neither one takes precedence, and it is completely up to the protest committee to decide which one is fairest for all. So don't bother putting that in your sailing instructions anymore. And don't put in that U.S. sailing prescriptions do not apply, because you can't say that. There's certain prescriptions you are not allowed to change. So don't bother with that either. Enough of that. I've noticed a lot of people are still putting in their notice of race that the safety equipment of the YRA of Long Island Sound, category B or C, apply. We stopped using those in 2020. We now refer to the U.S. Sailing SIRS, so those are the ones that you should be applying, not the YRA safety regs. Told you about the decision to race. Perf rules. We talked about class rules applying. Perf is a class rule. So in your notice of race or your sailing instructions, and now it can only be in the notice of race. If you want to change a class rule, it has to state it in the notice of race. You are not allowed to change a rule of perf without permission from the class, which means you need to get permission from YRA to change the perf regs. And that would be, we would have to issue something in writing, and you would have to post that on your official notice board that you have been given permission to change that rule. But you cannot change a class rule without asking the class for permission. What else? I'm trying to skip over, so we don't need to go through all of these, but the big ones that apply. We did that one, did that one, did that one. I think we're good. So if anybody else has any questions about any rules or anything, feel free to send me an email on rules pertaining to running races, and I'm happy to answer any of them for you. So running regattas in COVID. One of the other changes in the rules is that you now have to have, number one, you cannot require registration or ask anybody to register for regatta before the notice of race is posted. You have to wait until the notice of race. The notice of race and the sailing instructions are required to be available at all times during an event. So if you're going to make that available, post it online, which is easy if you're doing something like yacht scoring or Regatta Network or one of the online Club Spot or whatever. If you're just using an interclub type of a regatta, and you don't want to be paying the $10 or whatever fee it is for an online registration thing, you might want to set up a Google group type thing so you can communicate with people instead of having an official notice board and have it posted there. So, for example, the Mid-Sound One Design fleet consists of the Vipers, the Etchels, the Internationals, and the S-Class, and the Shields, and they all come out from different clubs and race on Saturdays. There is no one club that is the organizing authority. It's a YRA event. We will post the notice of race and the sailing instructions on the YRA website, but to communicate and have the official notice board, we've set up a Google group so that if there's any amendments or any changes, it's all posted within that Google group and everybody gets the email about it all at the same time. If you're using Yacht Scoring or Regatta Network, you can turn that into your official notice board by simply setting up the notice board and making it from just a user-friendly thing and saying this is official, and post all of your amendments to that. This helps with COVID protocols because you don't want everybody coming into your clubhouse and reading your notice board that's in the main hallway and having too many people gathering around. So it makes it a lot easier for COVID protocols into running a regatta. Doing the online, you can also do announcements. For example, if I go back to the Mid-Sound One Design guys and say, we have a noon start for today, and I'm down there at 10:30, and I go, I know we're not going to have any wind until at least 2. I can put the AP up ashore, and I can send out a email message or a text message to them all through either the Google group or through Yacht Score and let them know that that has just been displayed. And if I wanted to say, okay, nothing before 2 o'clock, I'd put up AP over 2 has been displayed. It's 10:30. So what time is the start? If I put a 2 underneath it, it means the start time has been postponed for 2 hours. It doesn't mean 2 hours from the time I put it up. But so the scheduled start time was noon. I put up a 2, so now their scheduled start time is 2 o'clock, and everybody can go off and do other stuff. And they know I can't shorten that up. But it's another way of communicating to people so that you don't have them all hanging around the front lawn waiting for somebody to blow a whistle, blow a horn or something, and all gathering and not complying with your club's protocols. Keep them all off the lawn. Once you're out on the water, there really isn't anything different you need to do other than possibly your race committee. And that we'll get to in a second, but you may want them to check in and therefore you might want to put up your L flag. Makes everybody come over. You can check them all in, give them any last minute messages or anything on what you're planning on doing, and go on with your day. With mark boats, however, and with your race committee, you might want to work on a reduced race committee still, or depending upon who's been vaccinated and who hasn't and stuff. Mark boats in particular, you're going to have to be careful. There's a new law is going into effect on April 1st, that any boat 26 feet and under is required to have a kill cord attached to the driver. So most mark boats are going to be under 26 feet. Make sure that somebody's got a kill cord on. And that's going to present an issue when it comes to changing marks and setting marks, moving around. They're going to be disconnecting and turning their engines off all over the place while they're jumping up to get the pick up marks and stuff and move around. So make sure you give them plenty of time to restart their engines and get going again. Or you can just go with a mark set bot, which are expensive. They're fun. They're great. They're very useful, but they're expensive. They still have a bit to go. They're a little slow. I think their maximum speed is like 4 knots. So if you're going against a current and a wave, you're not going to get there very fast. I mentioned the protest forums are online now, so you don't have to worry about if you set up your protest committee to run virtually through a Zoom meeting and tell everybody what email address you want the form sent to. The app if you've got your phone, you hand the helm over to somebody else while you're sailing in, you fill out your protest form, you save it, and you email it right off your phone to the protest committee, and you're official, you're filed, you're done. And then you just have to wait until, depending upon how they're setting up the Zoom meetings for protest hearings. Basically, that's all you really need to take care of in running a regatta during COVID. The other issue is, are you going to be having any social events afterwards? Most events early in the season are not currently planning on having any social events afterwards. They're kind of getting the regattas in and keeping the social on at a minimum. Come July or mid-June, you might start seeing more social events, again, depending upon how things go through spring break and how vaccines start to go. But people are starting to think about maybe mid-July to start maybe offering on a smaller scale social events, not having big gathering, but a smaller scale, outdoors only. And then as we go through the season, they're opening up a little bit more. Which brings us to commissionings. That was another big question I got, is how are your clubs planning on handling commissionings? Most of the clubs I have spoken to, when I've asked them what they're planning, they've come right back with, well, we're not sure yet, we're still tentative. What have you heard? And basically, I've heard most clubs are still tentative. They're still trying to decide. And a lot of them found out we were doing this, so they said, well, let us know after your meeting. So in your chat box, could you tell me what, if your club is planning on having commissioning, how are they planning on doing it? Larchmont is very tentative right now on how they're going to be doing it, but currently they are thinking that they are going to go ahead with having a in-person commissioning with a very limited guest list and limited attendance. They're going to separate people. We have the ability to say, okay, you guys over on this side and you guys over here. And that's just, again, it's very tentative. So things could change within the next couple of weeks. Anybody else? Mary Lou? You're muted.
We're speaking for North Shore Yacht Club. We actually spoke with the Commodore this afternoon What you just described for the other club is about what we're going to do, a very controlled invitation list, and then we'll Zoom it. So, you know, we'll record it and then share it with our members and anyone else later on.
Thank you. That's basically what I've heard from a bunch of other clubs also. Alex Helfand just said that New York Athletic Club is currently planning an outdoor commissioning event. Alex, are you planning on having, inviting visiting dignitaries, or is it member only? Don't know.
There we go. Sorry, I couldn't find the mute. Right now, I don't think we're allowed to invite outsiders. So it's probably just going to be members only.
Okay. Rotten Point commissioning is outdoor, socially distanced in the groove. Black Rock is having an outdoor commissioning on Sunday, May 16th at 3 p.m. by invitation and live members with Zoom. So it looks like most people are looking at, yeah, Sewantika is tentative. Riverside hoping to have a somewhat normal social distance outdoor event. Since most of these events are outdoors, it's the dinners that are usually, they bring everybody indoor to. Most clubs tentatively are planning on it right now. I saw a raised hand somewhere. Raiser. I can't see everybody now, so I lost it. I don't know who it was. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot for this town hall meeting.
Cynthia, the raised hand was Dave C.
Thank you, Adam. Dave C., you had a question? Unmute and go ahead and ask.
No, I just wanted to say Manhasset Bay is on a similar similar schedule, trying to do outside as far as guests concerned. Not not definitive yet, but we'll definitely do outside Zoom for the members who can't make it.
Excellent, thank you. Jenny Anderson, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I was curious about dignitaries and their participation at other clubs.
That's
Commodores
where
from all the clubs receiving invitations and attending at clubs.
Again, most of the clubs I've spoken to said they are limiting the visiting dignitaries. I don't know to what extent, because every club does it differently on how many they invite. But most of the clubs are limiting to a smaller group, probably the closer clubs, on who they're inviting. I don't know any club that's just opening it up. Julian is asking how clubs are handling valid certificates for club racing member only events. Julian, the YRA does not enforce, if you've got like a Wednesday night harbor sailing, the YRA does not enforce you having to have a certificate. A lot of clubs require it anyway because they don't want any politics going on with having somebody deciding what another club member's rating is going to be. So like I said, a lot of clubs will just require it to keep the politics out of the club of who's adjusting whose buddy's boat for a regatta. Does that answer your question? You're muted, Julian.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we've always at Sewantika been pretty loose with this. And we've tried to encourage people to get certificates, but there's always a cadre of people that just don't do it, but they show up for like one race a year. This year, we're going to be requiring it for the two qualifying races that we run, the Alfred Roosevelt, Stratford Shoals, and impose a 5-second penalty for all other events. So we're really trying to drive people to get the certificate, but we also want people to show up on the line. So if it's, if it's somebody that we're trying to browbeat a cruiser into coming around on one of our silly pursuit races, we want to be able to do that. We want them to join, but we also want them to support the YRA. I was just curious if other clubs are taking that kind of approach.
If it's a regatta that's a qualifier for a season trophy, we require that they have valid certificates, and that the OA requires a valid certificate. While we have kind of looked at the non-spinnaker, the navigator type divisions with, okay, a club wants to let one guy in who only does this one race all year, and we kind of turn a blind eye to that. Over the last couple of years, it's gotten a little out of control, and we've had major events in the last couple of years, not just last year, but the year before, where it's been a major event. It's a qualifying event for season trophies, and OAs are allowing people to race without a valid certificate at all, and that is actually not allowed by the class rules. And one of the other rules that changed is, it once upon a time was, if you were entering a regatta and you said, oh yeah, I have a valid certificate, I'll get it for you, the race is on a Saturday, and oh, I'll get it to you by Monday. That's not allowed in the rules anymore. The rules now say that it has to be before either the last day of the event or the first day at if it's a series, it has to be that first day. So if your regatta is on Saturday, you have to provide that certificate before the start on Saturday. Anyone else? Any other questions? I want to thank you all for attending tonight. We hope to keep this an ongoing thing. So if you have any other topics you'd like us to present to other member clubs, so you can get feedback and see how other clubs are handling things, please let us know. And we're going to try and keep this as at least a monthly thing. We may do, depending upon the topics, we may do it more often. Once we get into the season, we might slow down a little bit, but depending upon the interest and what kind of topics you guys would like to discuss, we are more than happy to facilitate this and do it as often or as few times as you want. So just ping us and let us know. Make sure you get your clubs to get online and register, so we can get a valid, active contact list going with, so we can reach out to all the rest of the clubs and get everybody in on this. But thank you. Thank you, everybody. And again, if you have any questions about anything regarding the running races, race management, or anything else, just let me know. Happy to help. Okay? Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Hey, Cynthia, will you post the recording on the website?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay.
Thank you, Cynthia.
So we get the report.
Thanks, Cynthia.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you.
Silversack's got a Silversack's got a beard.
Yeah.
What's that?
Okay, so let's leave.
That's Richard.
Hi, John.
Richard?